Hi, everyone. I'm Kelsey Bogan. I'm a high school library media specialist. I genrefied my high school library several years ago. The impact has been hugely, overwhelmingly positive. You can read my 2 blog posts to hear more about my experience. I've seen a lot of posts from librarians right now who are at home because of the pandemic shutdown, who are wondering if there's a way to do the genrefication process while stuck at home and when you can't get into the actual building, and there is. So in this series of videos, I'm going to share the way that you can genrefy your collection without being physically present at your collection. So here's how you do it. Let me share my screen to get us started. The first thing is that I am going off of the basis of people who use Destiny for their library management system. So if you use Destiny, you can call Follett and ask them for what is called a genre assist report. The genre assist report is really, really helpful for when you're genrefying. It makes it much quicker. So what it looks like is it's a spreadsheet. They'll email it to you, and it actually will look just like this. And it's a spreadsheet. It's basically a shelf report of all of the books in your library. You can put it in order of call number, so it's basically in the same order that they would be on the shelf. And this is the reason it's really important, because down here you can see, I'm going to zoom in so you can see the columns a little better. It has the call number for the book. Each row is a different book, barcode number, all of that, the title, the author. But then you have these 2 categories here where it says BISACS and then subjects. These are the 2 columns that are going to help you quickly genrefy your collection, because the subject tags in these 2 columns should give you basically as much information as you need to determine what genre each book is in. There were some that I hit that weren't really helpful, and so I had to go out and look them up in Goodreads or on Amazon to kind of read the summary and determine more about the book. But like probably 85% of them, you will be able to determine just using the subject tags. So the first step for genrefying from home is to get your genre assist report. Once you have it, you or your assistant or your volunteers or whomever you want to trust to do this can simply add a column on the left-hand side of the report, and you're just going to title that genre. And in that column, for each row, for each book, you're just going to type what your genre, what you're going to call this book, what genre it's going to be in. And it's very important that when you do this, you use the exact same word and spelling for each genre every time, because later when you filter them, they need to match. So if you're calling it fantasy, you have to call it fantasy in every single row. If you're calling it sci-fi shortened or science fiction, the long one, make sure you use the same one no matter which row you're in. So let me show you how this will work. So I'm on the first row here. My first book is The Monkey Wrench Gang. If I already know off the top of my head what it is, I could just put my genre right here. But this book I'm not familiar with, so I'm going to look at these 2 categories here to determine. So the first one that's labeled as fiction, action adventure, humorous, and then over here it has environmental protection fiction, environmentalist fiction, humorous fiction. So based on those options and based on the genre categories I've already pre-selected, for me, this book would fit best in my action section. So I'm going to type action and then go to the next book. The next book is After Summer. I know this book, but if I didn't, I would look over here and I would see that it's fiction, love and romance, dating relationships, teenage girls. So to me, that says it's realistic fiction. I don't have a genre for realistic fiction. I have 3 different ones. And so this would fit in my realistic identity relationships genre. And in this, I'm just going to call it identity. The next row, again, boys and men, seasons, fiction, beach fiction, girls fiction, vacation fiction. So that tells me that it goes in the same one, identity. And then again, the next one is the same. And then the next one, coming of age, psychological, cheerleading fiction, psychological fiction, suicide fiction. That tells me that out of my genres, that's going to go in my realistic adversity section. So make sure I spell it correctly. The next one, does my head look big in this? Australia fiction, clothing and dress, Islam customs, practices, Muslim. So that tells me, again, it goes in my identity, realistic identity fantasy. And then the next one, literal madness, is called experimental fiction. And it doesn't really give me any other information. So if I couldn't figure it out on my own, I would have to go out and look for that one. But this would go in my mystery suspense section. So you can see I already pre-filled out a couple more down here so that you can see how it would look. Once you have completed the entire selection of your books, then it's time to do the next step. So I'll do another video with the next step. So the first step is request your genre assist report, add a column to the left-hand side to put your genres in, and then just start working your way down the list, adding the genre tags for which of your genres you think the book best works. So that's how you start. Next video coming up next.